"You never listen to me" is probably one of the biggest sources of frustration that we have with one another and one of the biggest complaints. You just don't listen. If you would only listen. But what do we actually mean by listen? Because some people, yes, they're distracted. They're playing video games. They're flipping through their phone. They're doing a million other things while you're trying to talk to them. And it's hard to think that somebody could actually be listening to you and hearing what you're saying because they have so many other things going on at the same time. But often, the words "you don't listen to me" is really meaning you're not doing what I want you to do, which is completely different than listening. And so this is something to start to pay attention to. And when I started paying attention to this in my own life, it made a huge difference because I did come to that conclusion that when I was frustrated that somebody wasn't listening to me, they were taking in what I was saying, they were processing it and deciding what worked for them, if they wanted to do it, didn't want to do it. But if they didn't actually do the thing that I was saying or responding to it in the way that I thought that they should, then I felt like they weren't listening. And this can cause a huge disconnect between people just because we listen through our own filters. As I often say, we see things through our own lenses. We look with our own perspective. The same thing when we're listening to somebody else, because you can tell somebody a story and then later on they're referring to it and you're like, what? You might only listen for the emotion that was being conveyed, but you're not remembering all the details and all the facts behind it. And maybe that's flipped. Maybe you hang on to the sources and the numbers that were involved and just the details of it, but you're not really paying attention to how they're feeling about it. And maybe you're somebody who dials in when they're talking about themselves and they're like something that they're struggling with. Then you're like really locked into it. But if you're talking about somebody at work and your friends and all these other things or something you saw on the news, they're tuning out because maybe they just don't have the capacity to take all of that on as well. So just because somebody doesn't respond the way that you would respond or to the things that you think are important or do what you think they should do with the information that you're telling them does not mean they're not listening. It just means that they're following their own process and they're paying attention to their own things that matter. And they are in tune with their natural way of taking in information, and it's going to look different than your natural way of taking in information and with what you decide to do with it.